Can't. Now we're gathered at, if we're far enough into the tape, we're gathered at Ben Trone's house, and it's Wednesday, the 25th of May, 2005. And I gave Ben a call this morning to see whether I could have him tell a little story, because he's kind of a resident historian here in Glenwood. And the chair he's sitting in, I'm going to have him stand up to the side just a little bit so that we can take a picture of that chair, because it is his great-great-grandfather's chair. So Ben, would you like to stand up over here a little bit? You can go back and sit down a little bit too. And that chair that we're going to show you is, if I can back up so we get a little bit better picture of it here. I'm sure I can do that. It's a beautiful chair, great shape. Looks like it's, what, would you say oak?
Yeah.
And do we dare guess how old that chair is?
Well, you go back,
100 years?
more than 100 years.
130 maybe? It's been around a while. You know, Ben and I were trying to figure out how old that chair is, and one thing he knows for sure is that there's been a lot of seating in that chair. I wonder how many different people have sat in that chair. Yeah. Can you name the people, starting out with the first guy way back there? Was it Peter's father?
Well, it would be Peter Trone, that's according to, it's written on the bottom there.
Yeah.
And that's my great, it was his great-grandfather.
Okay.
And then he gave it to Benjamin, his son,
The one you're named after.
and my dad got it, and my dad gave it to me, so,
That's pretty neat.
yeah.
Well, there's going to be have you got it figured out yet? As the future goes down the road 40 years, if there's anybody that's going to be lucky to inherit a chair like that?
Oh, yeah, it was one of my nephews, I suppose.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to the beginning there. Back to Peter, and what do you know about the folks, where they came from in Norway?
Well, they come from Trondheim, or Stencha, in that area.
Okay, north of Trondheim then.
Yeah.
What time approximately?
Well, Peter Trone came in 1871, and his son Benjamin
Okay.
came to Benson. And then Benjamin Trone walked with Mr. Mamadal from Benson to the Inhead.
Oh, I see. Walked.
Walked. This is
Yeah.
what's known as the Wallen settlement.
I see.
He walked there, and it took him all day, and
Yeah.
it was getting dark, and he saw this light off in the distance, and he kept aiming for that. And here was his great-grandfather.
So he now you're talking about who was walking up from Benson?
Benjamin Trone.
Oh, Ben was, okay. And then he met his great-grandfather.
Yeah.
Boy. Anyway, they came from Norway. How about the wives then? They come from that same area?
Well, Benjamin Trone's wife, Hannah,
Yeah.
Kathleen Trone,
Yeah,
she came earlier. She came in 1867
I see.
at 6 years old.
Oh, so she didn't know anything about him coming over then
Well, I
until he...
don't know if they knew each other over there or
Oh.
what.
I see. Well, she was pretty young when she came then, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And were they farming, or what were they doing?
Well, her father had a farm over there in Norway,
Okay.
and he left for Norway then, and he was a carpenter. He brought all his tools, and they came on the boat to Harmony.
Harmony.
That was the name of the boat that they,
Oh, the name of the boat, the Harmony.
yeah. And took them 7 weeks to come across the ocean.
Yeah.
And
That was a sailing vessel in those days.
yeah,
then.
pretty rough going, because his wife got, of course, when they got on the boat, Mikkel Hatley, that was his name. He started checking the boat to see how solid it was, and he found some rotten spots in there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he told his wife, and she didn't think we were going to make it. See,
Mm-hmm.
but they made it.
Now, when they got to the United States, how did they get to the middle of the United States?
Well, Grandma said they came up the Quebec River,
Oh,
and she said, "I'll never forget it. It just was yesterday. It was just beautiful." She said,
yeah.
and they came into. Oh, let's see, where was it?
They make the Great Lakes on any of it then, or
Yeah, they come in and they ended up in Michigan.
I see.
So,
And came across Wisconsin then, Minnesota. So where do we go from there? Did they have the relatives farmed through the years then, all these years?
well, when they came to Lansing, is where they came to,
I see.
and they met a guy. They were standing around. I just got off the train or something. And here comes this Norwegian driving a team of horses and wagon, and Mikkel found out he speak Norwegian, so he started talking to him. Guy said, "Told him just get in the wagon," and he brought him home with him.
Yeah,
They ended up in Decorah, Iowa,
for goodness sakes.
and Mikkel's oldest son was Peter. They built houses, log houses.
Oh, I see.
They were there for 2 years, then they come.
Well, this was Mikkel Trone, huh?
Yeah.
And Peter Trone. So they came, they were stayed in Iowa for a while?
They stayed in Iowa for 2 years.
I see.
But the funny part of it was, Mikkel brought a bear skin from Norway that his brother had shot. Brought all that away from Norway,
Yeah.
and he traded it for a wagon, which was $125.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So they pioneered up toward this direction, and and they went to Benson first?
Well, that was the Trone family.
Oh,
The
okay.
Atling family came up earlier,
Okay.
and well, you have to go back to, my dad used to tell me these stories, and it wasn't just one wagon train, there were 2 wagon trains. One came before Atling's, and that was Nils Wallen,
Mm-hmm.
and he settled out there by the Inherent Church.
Oh,
So he'd been here a year.
I see. And the Atlings then, that was the family that the Trones married into?
Yeah.
Oh, I see, okay, okay.
She used to trap muskrats. And, there was no school around here then.
Yeah,
Trap muskrats and help her dad.
yeah. You don't get too many women to do that nowadays.
No, I suppose not.
They've gotten kind of soft.
Yeah.
So, did they stay in that area then pretty much all the time around
Well,
Inherit Church?
Mikkel Hatling settled south of the Lowry. Remember where that farm that had all the chickens? 114.
Well, I know south of Lowry, but I don't remember that
Second
one.
farm south of Lowry.
I see, okay.
That's where they settled.
Was this on the west side of the road then, or on the east
East
side?
side.
East side of the road. Were they involved in that East Zion Church then at all, or did
No,
they come
they
into town?
Inherit.
Inherit. Well, they went right up to the north of town to Inherit. Of course,
Yeah.
Inherit's a pretty old church.
Yeah, well, it goes back, I forget how many years now.
Must be 125 anyway.
It's over 125.
Is it? Yeah. So they're farming there and raising family.
Yeah.
And where does your pa fit into that picture?
Well, he was Benjamin Trone's son,
Okay, his name was
Magnus.
Magnus, okay.
Yeah, he was the youngest of 5 children.
And where did they all wind up, those 5?
Well, of course, Benjamin settled in Minnewaska Township,
Okay,
sections 3 and 4. And his dad, Peter, homesteaded, because Benjamin was only 19 years old. He wasn't old enough to homestead. So that's where they homestead. And it's still in the family, yeah. Just,
now, well, where is that from Inherit Church? Is that to
well,
south
we're
or
about 3.5 miles east of there.
east of there on 24?
Yeah.
I see. They're trying to figure out who's living there now.
The Gremmels.
Okay, Peter?
Yeah, Peter Gremmels.
Okay, so he's on the old Magnus Drone farm then.
Yeah, so he'd be close relative of the drones, you know.
Sure, sure,
Who's son.
yeah. Now these 5, so one of them, Magnus had 5 kids, or was it Peter that? Did Magnus have 5 children?
No,
Peter did.
no.
I got this wrong. Okay.
There's 2 Peters here, so you get.
Oh, I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
All right.
Benjamin had 5
All
children.
right. Benjamin had 5.
Yeah,
Okay. And Magnus was the youngest one of those.
yeah.
Okay.
You had Marie Trone, and Peter, and Lava, and Ellen, and Magnus.
Okay. And they all are around, or were around here for a long time, or they went somewhere
Well,
else, or?
Marie became a teacher, and she died at quite a young age.
I see.
And Peter Trone became a pastor, of course, Pastor Peter Trone.
Sure.
And Lava married Casper Johnsoy, who was a pastor at Starbuck. And Ellen married Melvin Mole, who was a pastor.
My goodness.
So,
You control the Lutheran Church, in other words.
yeah,
We just sang some music that was arranged by John Choi.
oh yeah, there's a lot of,
Men's chorus did.
yeah,
Like a River Glorious is the name of the tune.
oh yeah.
Came out of some larger work that he had done. Well, that's interesting. And then you are the children of Magnus then,
Yeah,
and it's Ben and David and,
David, Benjamin, and Hannah Ray.
okay. And Ben, how many wives have you had?
Well, I better not tell you.
I have a cousin that says a successful bachelor is a person who doesn't have any children to speak of.
Oh, yeah,
Well, now, Hannah married a musician.
yeah, Dr. Carl Yerton,
Yeah. And he was a
choral director
Yeah.
at Davis
Gustavus
Adolphus.
Adolphus. He's been with his choir into Glenwood at different times.
Yeah,
That's interesting. Now, where does Ruth Gremmels fit into that picture?
well, she's the daughter of Pastor Peter Trone.
Oh, okay. So she's a cousin of yours then?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So Peter then is the first cousin once removed. Peter Gremmels.
Yeah,
And that's not unusual because Norwegians get removed a lot, you
yeah,
know.
I suppose.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. So, regarding other history around here, you've got some grandsons, I should say grandnephews, and a grandniece.
Yeah.
What are they up to?
Well, Mike Trone teaches out here at the Minnewaska School. Steve is a principal at Dakota Hills, and I don't know, where is it?
Around the city someplace?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one
And
either.
Kari, I think she's living in Chicago. Can't remember.
I see. Well, now David Trone, your brother, he was county treasurer here for a while? Took our money, you know.
Yeah, I know.
He was nice about it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my. Well, you have lived here all your life in Glenwood?
Yep. Didn't get out of the county.
What have you been up to? Nothing where you had spent any time in jail, I don't suppose.
No, I don't do much of that.
Probably should have, but didn't.
I farmed on the home farm there for a few years.
Yeah,
Then worked at the hardware store up in the Fleet Supply for
sure.
15 years, so now I'm wore out.
15 years. I've seen you up there several times, but I didn't realize you'd been there for 15 years.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. Well, I remember someone telling me that you'd taken them up on the hills out here, out of town a ways, and showed them where there was an old wagon trail.
Yeah.
Can you still find that?
Well, the 24 is
A part of it?
part of it where they drove on
Yeah.
in the early days.
And then took the high spots and followed the hills, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it took them one day to get to in there. Usually a wagon train can do 15 miles in one day is considered very good, but they only made it from the Indian Mound to in there.
Yeah, in one day.
Yeah.
Well, it's tougher going, though,
Yeah, they
through
go
the sloughs and the hills and,
Yeah.
and stuff there.
Yeah.
Speaking of going to inherit, I remember a story you told about your father Magnus driving on the gravel road to get to church and happened to wind up sitting down by Mrs. The pastor's wife over at Inherit Church. Trying to think of her name. That wasn't Ferdy, was it? Pastor Ferdy's wife? Anyway, your father had come on the gravel road and it was so full of washboard bumps that it shook the daylights out of him.
Yeah.
And do you remember what he said when he sat down by the preacher's wife?
Got the hell shook out of us before we got to church.
Yeah, he didn't really feel like he needed church.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
That's Jim's wife.
Jim's, yeah, Jim
Assumption.
Sumption's wife. And he's full of the dickens too, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great people.
Yeah.
So what other great people have you known in the last 50 years?
50 years.
Yeah.
Great people? Are there any great people around here?
Oh yeah, Jim Sumption's one of them.
Oh, sure.
You bet.
There's a lot of them that have come into my life, I guess.
Yeah. You're talking about the Woolens. Tell us something about those Woolens. Are they cousins of yours? Or second cousins? Cousins of your
Oh,
dad?
you've got these 8 brothers,
Yeah?
and then there's 2 sisters. And of course, Peter Tone was married to Martha Wellen.
Okay.
That's how the Tones get into the picture.
All right.
And they didn't all come at once, but Nils Wallen came first,
Yeah.
then some of the others came. Nils came in, I think it was a year before, maybe 66 or something like that. And he came through here with a bunch of other wagons and ended up in Barrett, you know. In the north, they had camped out at by the Inherit Church or the lake. That lake is the Wallen Lake.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then they continued up north to close to Barrett, but then they came back. They hit some storms up there,
Mm-hmm.
and he settled there west of or east of the church out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the church started, Nils, in his cabin. First
Right.
time they had services.
Is that right? Was it pretty much close to where the old church, the church is now then, or
Oh, it's about a quarter of a mile from there.
which direction? East of there?
Yeah.
I see. And what year approximately would that be? About 1870?
No, that was 1865 in there.
Oh, really? So we're 135 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now he came and he built the cabin, you know. And then he sent back, and his wife came on a train to St. Cloud,
I see.
his children.
Oh, so they were still in Norway when he was doing all of this, is that?
No,
Oh, they were
they
still.
were in Decorah, Iowa.
Oh, I see, okay.
And then they came a year later, or when he got the cabin ready, then they came and she got sick and died.
Oh, my.
The 8th day she was here. She got cholera.
Oh, really?
And then one of the children got cholera and died. And Nils was sick too, and a stranger came through, and he told the stranger, you gotta go to Glenwood and get help, Dr. Whittemore.
Yeah,
It's a medicine, so that's what he did.
yeah.
And of course it saved his life.
Oh, boy.
So then he had one family, and then he remarried again, had his second family.
Yeah,
But he could read and write, see, so
I see.
he was the postmaster, and
Yeah,
he had a stagecoach stop there at his farm, and
I suppose most of it was Norwegian too, though,
Oh,
those
yeah.
days, you know. So, tell us about that farming back then. What were they farming with?
with oxen.
Yeah,
A lot of that prairie's been broke up with oxen.
yeah,
I know Nels, he broke up some land there. And of course, he started a store there, you know. Somebody came through and he was making posts, wood posts, you know.
yeah.
And somebody from the west, in the prairie, you know, he sold those, and that's how he got started.
Oh, my gosh, it's,
So if you wanted to go to Norway, he'd help you get tickets, or
yeah. A general store in the country.
yeah.
The wagons that they went with, and when they crossed the country, were they pulled by oxen, a lot of them, or were they pulled by horses?
Well, that wagon, second wagon train that came up here was led by Peter Wallen, brother of Nels.
I see.
And there was 15 team of oxen and 1 team of horses.
I see.
And Pat Danila Benson, she drove that team of horses all the way from Decorah, Iowa.
Is that right?
And Peter Wallen had quite a bit of cattle and some horses, so
Heard them along the way too as they're
Yeah.
coming up. Drove them all the way.
drove them all the way.
They didn't have railroads, so they couldn't just load them on a railroad and ship them up. Yeah, that's life. And it's awfully sad when someone's wife dies. You should wait a
Yeah.
whole year to come up and then dies after
Yeah.
8 days. That's a
And
tragedy.
of course, the mosquitoes were so bad, you know.
Yeah.
They'd stampede the cattle sometimes.
Oh, really?
And the oxen would sometimes just take off for a slough or something. You know.
And imagine some of these kids grew up in a hurry
Yeah.
trying to take care of that.
And of course, Grandma and the kids, you know, the kids her age, they moved to sow. Their job was to chase this sow
Yeah,
all the way from Decorah, Iowa.
yeah.
And the pigs were promised, you know, she was supposed to be pregnant, and
Yeah,
pigs that she had were promised to other people, but I never had thought of asking, you know, how many pigs that sow had.
oh my goodness. Chased her all the way up from Iowa.
And they came to the Mississippi and crossed on flat tops, I suppose.
I imagine.
And they started towards St. Cloud, and one of the children come running, the sow was disappeared. So they had to stop and go back, and they found her laying in the mud.
Oh,
She was laying in the mud in the water, cooling herself off.
sure, yeah. Comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Pigs have a mind of their own, too, if they
Yeah.
don't want to go.
Of course, if they're real tame, you know,
Yeah,
sometimes they don't want to move too fast.
that's right. Well, that's an interesting story. Now, as you get farther up into the turn of the 20th century, or 19th century, I suppose you should call it, and get over that century and get into the 20th, These people are farming with different equipment then. They don't
Yeah.
have to be using oxen all the time. How many horses did you have, or your dad? How many horses did he have?
Seems to me we had 5 horses. Yeah,
So you had to run them on the gang plow.
yeah, we were in the hills, so
Yeah,
Dad wanted plenty of power.
yeah. 216s,
Oh, I maybe 214.
214s, about 5 horses.
Yeah.
Were they all good horses you could depend on?
Oh, well, I can name them. Some of them.
What are their names?
Jumbo was one.
Yeah,
And he had a mate by the name of Babe that died from sleeping sickness.
Yeah.
But Jumbo was also used to break the colts.
I see.
When you put, break a horse in the harness, he was there to hold him down,
Yeah,
And then there was Toby and Sally. That was Dad's main team when I was young.
I see.
And then there was Ted that was with Jumbo. And then they had another Babe, I think it was.
Were these all mostly bay horses, or were they blacks, or white, or?
Oh, Jumbo had those white socks, and
Yeah.
nice white. And Toby was the same way, had the white streak down her.
The brownish bay horse then, were they?
Black.
Black horse.
And Ted was completely black,
Yeah.
dark. And Sally was a strawberry roan, you would call her.
Yeah, kind of a reddish, speckled.
And Babe was sort of that way too.
Now, were they all draft horses? Good big horses to start with?
Well, Jumbo was big,
Yeah,
but they varied.
yeah. I know that when that sleeping sickness came in around 1918 or thereabouts, wherever that happened, a lot of their good horses died, and they shipped in Broncos on in the cars, railroad cars. And they weren't very big, but they were wiry.
Yeah.
They were tough little horses. We had a team of Broncos on the home farm at Underwood. But, so did you ever get involved in breaking horses?
No, I can tell you a story about they had this one horse by the name of Babe that was really tough to break, see?
Yeah.
So they had Jumbo on it with her,
I mean, side by side in
Side by
in a
side.
team, yeah.
and then my uncle had a long rope that was tied to the bit, and he was off to the side,
Uh-huh.
and my dad was up on the hay rack, and he started down the road, and the bit broke, and
Oh.
oh boy. They didn't get her broke, but he got rid of that horse.
I suppose it isn't often you break a bit. They're made of steel.
I know, but
That horse must have bit down really hard on that bit.
I suppose.
How about runaways? Other side of that, you didn't have any runaways?
Well, I drove horses. My dad let me drive horses when I was 15. I didn't have any. I guess my dad did have some sometimes.
Yeah.
They'd, when they were using the manure spreader, they would split the colts with the Jumbo on there,
Yeah,
I think it was 3 horses they used then.
I see.
And he said one time they started off and he just turned them up a steep hill and they got about halfway up and they were popping.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Take the snort out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you're getting involved in harvest, did they stack thresh it all in your times? Your
No,
grandpa probably did.
Oh yeah, I suppose he did at one time, but
Yeah,
I can't remember. Our neighbors used to stack trash there in the 40s.
bring in a big machine and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this-
they would thrash in the fall of the year.
yeah. And my father told about, when he was 14, in 1918, that this flu had taken so many. They'd come around in the fall, November, October, and there would be kids and women out there pitching bundles because some of the men were sick or they died.
Yeah.
It was a tough time.
It was really rough.
Now, you got involved in shocking, though.
Oh yeah, we had the shock. That was,
Cut the grain with a binder. Did you have horses on the binder or a tractor?
well, when they first started, they had horses on there.
3 horses?
5 on the.
5 on the binder. Boy, that's, of course, it's heavy.
Yeah.
And And that big blow wheel's got to run all their apparatus,
Yeah.
get those aprons spinning and tie those bundles. What kind of grain did you raise on the farm?
Well, when I was growing up, they raised oats, barley, and wheat.
No corn, huh?
Yeah, we had corn too.
Yeah.
Corn for the silage and some to pick.
So you cultivated the corn with horses.
Well, I didn't, but they did.
Yeah. Did you ever have a horse cultivator behind a tractor?
No,
Ever used one of those?
no.
You remember how they steered the old horse cultivators?
Yeah, I remember that. We had one single roll there. Though.
Yeah? How do they steer it?
Well, it got pedals up there. You just
Yeah. So you press on the right pedal, the wheels
Yeah.
turn to the right.
Yeah.
And sometimes the gangs even slid over that held the
Yeah.
hose. But they're really quite excellent piece of work.
Yeah.
When you're threshing, did you get involved in the bundle hauling or any of that?
Yeah, I did. I'm a spiker.
Oh, that's the worst kind.
Yeah.
I know. You ever know a guy named Kermit Ostwald?
Yeah.
Well, he lived up at Underwood on the place where I was born. He and his wife Ruth and Leo Fretland, who was also a relative of Frank Pladsen. Anyway, when you get a guy like Kermit Oswald out there, when the load gets pretty full, you know, and he's on the other side, you can expect a bundle to come clear over, you know, and hit you right in the back of the head. Just to
Yeah,
get your
we used
attention. You never did that though.
No.
Oh no.
John and me were perfect.
Yeah. John who?
John Mole.
Oh, okay.
See, John used to come up to the mole farm and stay every summer since he was 5 years old.
He's a cousin of yours?
Yeah, that'd be Melvin Moe's son, the one that's the pastor.
Okay.
And we'd have to spike, see.
Sure.
And of course, my brother would get up in the load to make it a big load, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd look up to you, want some more, David? Yeah. And then I'd nod like that, and we'd throw it at the same time, so we'd get him from both sides. He didn't like that.
No, I suppose not.
And then we get just about up to the machine, and we tipped it over. And
Yes.
my dad said, "Why do you have to have such big loads for?" You know?
Yeah.
Took 2 A-Racks to pick up with it.
Yeah. It was interesting. Some people would put on just a little jag, you know, so they get in quick for coffee.
Yeah,
And some will load them up, you know, they can hardly get through the woods with a load.
yeah.
Speaking of coffee, what did you have for eats when you were threshing? First of all, how many bundle teams were there? How many flavors?
Well, in the early 40s, I think there was 5 or 6 neighbors that thrashed together.
Yeah.
And then that broke up in the 46 we had 3 bundle teams.
I see.
The neighbors, we had one neighbor, Gordon, and Andrew go with us.
Sure. Now, 6, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And kind of keep both sides of the machine operating pretty
Yeah.
well. We've got a fairly good sized machine. Did they eat pretty well?
Oh, we lived like kings. 10:30 was coffee time, you know.
Oh, sure. What did you have?
Big grandma cookies and gingerbread cookies, and you'd probably have peanut butter and jam sandwiches, or sometimes it was bologna sandwiches,
Yeah.
and coffee and sugar lumps. Of course, we drank our coffee with cream, and O's didn't. They used black coffee. So.
I see.
And then, of course, dinner would come, and of course, my cousin John Moe was telling me we've got to have pies, this banana cream pie, you know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I knew what was coming.
Yeah. You're going to the house for that, though.
Yeah, 12 o'clock.
Yep.
Dinner was served at 12.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you'd eat, you're hungry, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And afterwards, you'd have to go out and start again, and then about, I think it was 3:30, we had lunch again.
Oh, yes. Did this come out in a great big old pan where they used to bake bread, and then they'd line that pan with a dish towel and fill it with sandwiches?
Well, my mother had one of these picnic boxes. It was made
Yeah.
out of tin, and then it had the handles that fold over like this.
Oh, handy.
That's what she used.
Sure.
But most of them used a big dish pan
Yeah.
and tablecloth folded over the
The corn bundles, they were a little heavier than the grain bundles.
Oh, yeah, the corn bundles. Sometimes they got pretty heavy.
Did you usually take them right after the corn binder had cut them, or did you?
Well, sometimes it would lay maybe a couple, 3 days.
You never did shock the corn bundles, though.
Well, we did on one little patch we had. We'd make these shocks, you know, and then tie twine around them.
Yeah. They're a little tough to haul in the winter, though, when they freeze down.
Yeah, but we hauled them out before the winter came. So.
Yeah. Now, these corn bundles, you threw them on a rack and hauled them in and run them through the
Silage cutter.
silage cutter. That was set up with a big tube going up past the end of the silo, and chop it and blow it up in there and
Yeah,
fill the silo.
yeah.
Do you ever get inside of the silo then and
Oh,
help
my dad
distribute?
would always, he'd start filling on Fridays, see?
Yeah.
And then, of course, it took 2 days to fill our silo. Well, then on Saturday, my brother and me would be up in the silo.
Yeah.
We'd tramp and get a little more in there, see?
Why is that sometimes a dangerous job as far as people actually dying? That's being up in the silo.
Well, that's if it was dry or something. It was
Yeah.
fumes with nitrogen or something.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a top on our silo, so.
We had a gal who was a cook in school. Nordgaard hired her. And in fact, she was one of the Dolliger girls.
Oh,
Think of her first name. Anyway, she was a sister to Johnny Peterson's wife, Albina, and her husband, this gal who was our cook, had been in a silo, and he'd gotten sick. He got home all right and died from the poison.
yeah,
So they'd like to start the blower up and blow it for a while before they sent anybody up to get in the
Yeah.
silo. Be sure it was okay.
yeah.
So farming was a little dangerous on
Yes, it was.
occasions. So,
Climbing up on the silo, I used to climb up on a 30-foot silo and hang with one leg, wiring up the gooseneck to the silo, you know.
could you do it now?
I can't even get out of the chair.
Yeah, that's pretty doggone brazen. 30 feet up, that's fairly well
Yeah,
up.
a little closer to God that way.
Oh yes, I suppose they were depending on God, so they didn't fall off. Well, where did you go to school?
Well, I went to District 33. That's the one that's down at the Historical Society.
Oh, you
That's District 33.
got so important after you'd been there, they moved it to town.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah,
I see. You must have left quite an impression.
yeah. A lot of initials in the desks.
How about the inkwells? Did you have inkwells in your desks?
Oh yeah, we had inkwells.
You never dipped anything in there. You weren't supposed to dip in there, did you?
Well, sometimes we attempted.
Like the pigtails of the girl in front of you? Well, who were your teachers?
My first teacher was Mrs. O'Connor, and I had her 3 years.
Well, you started in first grade then?
Yep, first grade. And they started me at 5 years old.
Oh, one of those bright kids, huh?
That was, my birthday was the 29th of December, see, but they started me at 5.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, fourth grade I had Elizabeth Broughton.
Really?
Yeah. Or she was Ruston then.
Mm-hmm.
And then, fifth grade I had Laura Nason. Seventh grade I had Mrs. Stoltz. There used to be a farm right below the Methodist church up here, see,
Yeah?
on the right-hand side.
Yeah,
That's where she lived.
I see.
And then I had Mrs. Rentz. Her husband was the superintendent of the MP Railroad.
Really?
Yeah. And then when I was 14, I started at Glenwood High School. I'd never ridden on the bus, you know, till I
No.
was 14 years old.
I suppose not. You didn't have any reason to.
No. We almost walked from, skied in the wintertime and
Well, how far did you have to walk to get to school?
half a mile.
Oh, that wasn't too bad.
No, except in the springtime when it flooded.
Yeah,
Then we'd have to walk the road, and that was a mile.
I see. Couldn't go crossway.
Yeah.
How many were in your school then? You know, eighth grades?
Yeah, we had 8th grade. Seems to me we had around in the 20s.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good size eighth grade When I went to the grade school, we had maybe 12 or 14, you know. But you had several in a grade then sometimes.
Yeah, we had, see, when I was a first grader and my brother's was in eighth grade, there was 3 in his class. And then there was the class, Buddy Brainerd's class, there were 4, I remember there.
Yeah.
4 or 3, and then there was, the next grade there was a couple, and yeah, it seems to me I counted around 20.
Yeah. How do you remember it? Was that a good experience?
Yeah, it was.
Why?
Well, you, of course, you were always looking forward, you were gonna be the next grade, you know, and of course you'd hear them question, the first grade above you,
Yeah,
and you could go and wait, and someday I'll be up there, and,
sure. And you sometimes had the answer that
Yeah.
the grade above you couldn't get.
yeah.
You know, some of the big cities are starting to do some of that, bringing kids from junior high over to the grades because maybe the junior high can't read too well, so he's gonna help this one down there and learn help that way.
Yeah,
They're doing that. They're reinventing the rural school.
yeah.
What do you do for fun?
What did we do for fun?
Yeah,
Well, we had a softball and 1 bat,
yeah,
and it was girls against the boys.
really?
When my brother was in 7th grade, I think it was.
You
Or
could
was
get you could get hurt that way.
Yeah, I know.
Some of these girls were pretty big when they were in 8th
Well,
grade.
they could hit the ball like I thought it was gonna.
Yeah,
And I know my brother felt bad when he got beat, because he didn't want to get beat by the girls.
no way.
That's what we did in the summertime. Then, of course, in the fall of the year, my brother and me had a football, and we'd bring that along, and then we'd play football.
Sure.
And then we'd play these games, pump, pull away, tin can, anti-over was another one.
What was that? Anti-over.
Well, you'd throw the ball over the roof of the school,
Yeah.
and then if they caught it, they could come around. You wouldn't know if they were coming to the right or the left.
Right.
And they'd come around, and then they'd throw the ball at you. If you got hit, you were out.
I see. That was the other team constantly had
Yeah.
less and less members. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. You guys are tough.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I think we tagged. We didn't throw the
Oh,
ball.
we tackled.
We would never hit anybody with the ball, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, of course, you never threw snowballs in the wintertime either, I
oh,
suppose.
we had some girls against the boys.
No kidding.
And we build forts, you know, and
Yeah.
then, of course, we had a hill behind the school, and we would build jumps, you know, and then in front of the school, we had a steep hill that, boy, it's real steep, you know.
Yeah.
And when the teacher got a bunch of books, we told him, don't throw that cardboard away. And I remember
Slide.
we put the whole school on this cardboard box.
Oh, my
We
gosh.
broke it open, see?
Yeah, sure.
And I remember Peter Gilbertson was in 1st grade.
Yeah.
We put him up in the front. Well, see, when he went down the hill, he got all the snow in the face.
You're nice people.
Oh, yeah. I still get him today, you know, he's
Yeah.
gotten so gray. I said, that's the
Yeah.
way you looked when you were in 1st grade.
Yeah, yeah, you look like yeah. Poor Peter. Oh, that was Walter Gilbertson's son.
Yeah.
Did you ever have Martha Gilbertson for a teacher?
Yes. And especially parochial school.
Oh, really?
See, we'd finish, you know, grade school, and then about 2 weeks later, we'd have parochial school.
For how long?
Well, it seems to me it was 3 weeks.
Really?
Of course, you went half days.
Yeah, I remember going to parochial school.
And I think your 1st to 5th went in the afternoon, and the older ones went in the morning.
You know, now they have vacation Bible school, and you sort
Yeah.
of think, oh, that's something new, but that's not new.
No.
Had that years ago. All grades, all 1 through 8 went to that, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Especially
Yeah.
interesting that they had kind of a church in the public school.
Of course, we were all Lutherans out there, see?
Yeah, I
Except we had
suppose.
2 families that were Methodists.
Uh-huh. They came anyway.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I don't know if they ever came. but
Yeah.
Maybe it was 3 families that were. Otherwise, it was just Indian people.
So you had both Liz and Martha Gilbertson, well, Martha Gilbertson and Liz Broughton,
Yeah.
yeah. I taught with
And
both.
Ruth Dulcine.
Oh, I see.
They all taught at school. And you know Leonard Drake, Mrs. Leonard Drake?
I don't think so.
She will be Paul Rodham's sister.
Okay.
She taught when I was in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the first ones I had were Smithton from Starbuck.
I want to ask you about the cattle and livestock you had at the farm. I forgot about that. Did you have every kind there was? Pigs and chickens and cows and
Well,
the
we
whole business?
raised, we had chickens, pigs, cows, sheep, a little bit of everything.
Did you shear the sheep yourself?
Well, we hired that done.
Somebody came in. Turkeys?
No, we didn't raise turkeys. Some of the neighbors raised turkeys, but we didn't.
Now, when you're threshing, how did you get the grain into the granary?
Well, we hauled it with a trailer and held 60
Wagon box?
bushels.
Double layer wagon box? Fairly long one?
No, the one we had was just a small one. It held 60 bushels.
Okay, 60 bushels was pretty good.
And we hauled that to it and had an elevator and then elevated it up.
One of these tube elevators with a chain on the top and round
Later on we
round
did.
plates? Okay. That was a job in the earlier days where they used to hold it in sacks and then have to dump the sack into the granary.
Yeah,
and
they
haul
were.
it.
You have to lift them up in the, that was a lot of muscle.
Oh man, they worked hard. Get a little better. But now we're getting into the 50s now and we're talking about that, are we?
Yeah.
And
Of course, then I remember we built we got some different wagon boxes then that held 80 bushel.
yeah, on a
So-
four-wheel wagon.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you start combining?
We started combining in 1955.
Yeah. What did,
Part of the, we had flax and we combined the flax and then the neighbors, they bought a combine and so my dad and me, we thrashed. That was the last time we thrashed.
I see. Just down the farm. Did you have your own machine then? Your own threshing machine?
Yeah, well, we had a machine with the moles, the
Oh,
half inches each.
yeah. Now, what kind of machine was it? What brand did you have?
Avery. It wasn't a very big one, but
20
it would do.
28-inch cylinder or something like that?
I can't remember.
Yeah. Truck cylinder, we're talking about how wide the beater is in front
Yeah.
that knocks the heads loose on the grain.
Yeah.
Well, those were interesting times. Do you miss the old threshing days?
Yeah, it was something about those days.
You got together with neighbors. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes neighbors you hardly ever saw.
Yeah, I know it.
One of the bundle teams.
Yeah.
So you get to know them a little better.
Plus, you got to know their horses. And,
How did you get the manure off? You hauled it out in a spreader. Did you have a big pile behind the barn, or how did you do it?
well, ours was in front of the barn.
Okay. You had a manure carrier to wheel it out of the barn?
Yeah, and then, if it was too cold to go with the tractor and spreader, we'd just dump it.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we tried to haul one load out.
Get some kind of a scoop on a tractor and haul it out in the spring when it thawed then, I
Yeah,
suppose.
that was later on.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty good. You had a pretty good operation though to have it set up so you didn't have to wheel it out of the barn in a wheelbarrow.
No, we had one letter carrier on that one.
Yeah. Now some have where you can even drive through the barn, but you didn't.
No, we didn't have it. The
Wasn't
barn
that
we
way?
had was built in 1888, I think. Rock foundation, 90 feet long.
Really? That's a good sized barn for that time.
And my grandpa paid $600 to have that built.
Yeah. Isn't that something? Could you build it for 60,000 now?
I don't know.
Maybe not. One thing is you get somebody out there who's going to split rocks and set them just right
Yeah,
for about an
that was
8.5 foot thick wall.
Boy, there's the big rocks in the bottom especially.
Yeah. I have a question about the house. What was the house like when you were born?
Well, Grandpa built that house in 1875. And then in 1898 he added on. So you had when it was built in 75, was had a low ceiling in it.
Oh.
But the one built in 98 had the high ceiling.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, he built that for $600.
The house.
Yeah. Still being, and then of course he added on for his parents lived in part of the house.
Oh, really?
You've been out there, haven't you?
Yeah,
Grandma's?
yeah, I have, yeah.
Where they have the kitchen?
I'm not sure, I don't remember the house too well.
Well, you know, here's the way this thing stood, and then there was a kitchen in the east end.
Okay, clear across the end?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
suppose it's about wide as this one here.
Yeah, about
And
15 feet.
Peter Troll and his wife lived there, plus there was a little bedroom in there, and then a stairway upstairs.
Oh, I see,
That's where they lived.
I see.
And they lived to be 97 and 90 years old.
Isn't that neat?
Grandma had her father there, he lived to be 100.
Yeah.
Regular old folks home.
Well, that's the way it was done then.
Yeah.
I wonder now, Grummel's, Jim and Ruth, they had a separate part on their building out too, and didn't her folks, wasn't he a pastor?
Yeah.
Trone?
Yeah, he lived in one side and they lived in the other.
Yeah? That's
I
really
was
neat.
out in the woodlot that Grandma had.
Okay, so that was a part of the area.
Yeah.
I see, I didn't know that. Interesting. So what happened to that house? Did they make many changes in that old house as the years went by? You got up around the 50s, you still had the outhouse out there in the 40s.
Yeah. Well, we remodeled in 1946. They put some dormers on the south side upstairs. See?
Yeah?
And then I think in 49 they took a porch off, made it a little different.
Get the bathroom in there some way?
Yeah, that's when we got a bathroom, 1946.
Yeah, it was pretty early.
Yeah, we got lights in 1941.
That is really early. Who wired your place? Who wired
Well,
your
the
house?
REA came down and,
Did they wire the house too?
yeah.
Well, they did. I know some of the farmers are gonna get a little book to read, and then they wire it themselves and
Yeah.
hope they got it right.
No, I remember it cost $225 for REA come down there.
Yeah, 1946.
And the neighbor come right through the neighbor's farm, and all he needed was one post to hook up for REA.
Yeah,
And I happened to be talking to Glenn, Glenn Gunners.
yes, yeah,
His dad and Andrew Moe were such good friends,
yeah,
And Glenn's dad or Arnold Gunderson told Andrew, for $125 you can get electricity. And Andrew said, oh, I can buy a grain binder for that.
So he didn't, or he's waiting
No,
one?
he didn't hook up.
I'll be darned. That's interesting.
So like the school in 46, then the rest of the neighbors got hooked up then.
Okay, but you had it in 41.
Yeah, which was,
That's pretty fantastic. Did you get in milk machines then fairly
no,
soon?
we didn't have a milking machine.
Oh, you were the milking machine.
I was the milking machine, yeah.
How many cows did you milk?
Well, we didn't milk that many.
I mean, yourself.
Oh, I don't know, 3, 4.
Yeah, that's pretty good for a kid.
Yeah.
How many were out there milking then when you were
Well,
out?
just the 3 of us.
You and Dave?
David and my dad.
Yeah. Your mother didn't get involved in milking, huh?
No, she didn't do that. She had to wash the separator, which was quite a job.
Oh, you bet.
We skimmed,
Yeah, sure. Did they have a separator in the barn?
Well, they had a milk house right next to the barn.
I see. That's nice too, though.
Yeah.
That was a well-built place to have a milk house by the barn. Some carried the milk up to the house and separated it.
Yeah, they had this cart, 2-wheel cart.
Yeah,
I used to push that thing around.
yeah.
I think you'd get about 3 milk cans on there.
Boy, that's a load. Big wheels.
Yeah. Because I know the moles would bring it from the barn down to their basement.
So they separated in the basement.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah, a lot of them did. Now, but did you have to crank the separator then?
Oh, yeah, I remember I had to crank it. And if you went too fast, then the cream would get too thick, you know.
Uh-huh. Well, how did you know how fast to go?
Well, you got used
Didn't it have a ding?
to,
Ding?
I am not sure.
Ding? It seems to me it made it a little sound when you made a revolution. So you knew how fast you were going.
Yeah.
I wonder if you went fast enough so the ding stopped, you know, so the weight would hang in the cylinder. Then.
Well,
But you had electricity fairly soon for your
yeah, they bought a motor for that. I remember.
yeah. Boy, that's hard work turning those
Yeah.
separators.
Stand there and
Crank.
crank, and then you had to pour the milk in and
Yeah.
they'd get a cream can of cream and bring it in on Saturday night.
All at the town.
All at the
Creamery.
town, and especially if it had leading a little money, you know, to
Oh yeah.
bring it into Swift, but most of the time you brought it to the creamery.
And then there's eggs. You haul some eggs to town.
Oh, yeah, we had eggs too.
Get some groceries.
We had eggs that would pay for the groceries, and
Yeah.
mother would get money besides.
Yeah. And then they had flour sacks.
Yeah.
You get 100 pounds. Where did you get your flour? From the store or from the mill?
We got it from the store.
Okay.
I think we went through 50 pounds a week.
Oh, yeah.
My mother did a lot of baking,
Yeah. They
bread,
got a lot of good bread.
brown bread and white bread, and of course, we, in the summer, have cream and bread
Ah.
with brown sugar on it.
Yes.
Or choke cherry jam.
Yes. I think your heart would have done a double take.
Yeah.
See that cream coming by.
It wouldn't even run out of the pitcher.
No. That's
And then
really.
some of them like that sour cream. I didn't like
Yeah,
that.
never
sour.
liked that. My mother would let milk get sour overnight and then make pancakes with the sour
Oh.
milk. That worked pretty well. But what was your favorite food when you were a kid? There wasn't cream on bread.
Well, I didn't like jam or jelly or jello, but
Mm-hmm.
I just about ate anything.
Yeah.
Plus, we would always have variety, you know, chicken or pork or,
Now, when you went to school, you had to take your dinner pail
you
along.
know,
What did you have for dinner, for lunch when you were at school?
peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah? Wouldn't spoil.
I remember sometimes it gets so cold in that schoolhouse, the peanut butter sandwiches would freeze.
Yeah.
And the kids would bang them on the desk. And, mine's frozen.
Well, you guys kept them out in the hall, I suppose,
Yeah.
on a shelf out there where you hung your coats.
Underneath the, where they kept the books back there.
So you had to pump the water and bring it in for the cooler too in the school, I suppose, huh?
We had to walk about a block. We had the water brigade, we called it.
Yeah?
We had a 3-gallon pail, and she had a chart there where who was supposed to carry.
Yeah.
Of course, sometimes you had to carry with somebody you didn't like too well.
Well,
It
a
was
block, that's a long ways to haul 3 gallons of water.
And then if it was cold, you really did it in a hurry, but if it was a nice day, it took off a long time.
Yeah. Especially if the girl was good looking, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that water, when it got to the school, did they have a big ceramic crock sitting on a stand then that they
Yeah.
poured it into?
Yeah. Put the top off, poured it in there.
And you had a little button on the side you could
Button
push
on the
and it would
side.
squirt up in the air so you could drink it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's living, huh?
Yeah.
So the teacher's going to make copies of stuff. Did she have one of these hectographs, gelatin trays? She lay a copy on there, or did she have something, a little better machine? She's going to make copies, you know, so everybody could color a turkey at Thanksgiving or something in school.
No, we didn't have anything like that that I know.
Nothing like that, huh?
We used to trace them on the window.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You go up there and put that on the window, and then you just trace.
Yeah, put your sheet on there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's probably what was done then, in those days. Did you have celebrations at Christmas then, put on programs
yeah,
and
they put on a
stuff?
big Christmas tree program,
Yeah,
and we had this one girl that could really draw,
yeah.
and she would draw the 3 wise men in colored chalk, you know, on several boards, chalkboards, you know.
Oh, really? Fancy.
Yeah.
How about a stage? Did you put up any kind of stage?
Well,
at
we
all?
had curtains,
Yeah.
slid on a wire,
Yeah, To make a,
And we'd have these little plays we'd put on.
sure.
I played Scrooge in 8th grade.
You did, huh? You got really good at it, never,
Oh,
never
yeah.
got over it.
Bah humbug.
Isn't it funny how you remember that stuff?
Yeah,
You got to be a star?
yeah. And I remember this one time Norman Rustin, he had a little skit. He was selling a newspaper, see. I come to buy one and we found out we were related and then he was supposed to throw his papers.
Uh-huh.
That was when we had lamps, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And he came, and then it was just, it was the end when he threw those papers and he came up, he just about hit the lamp piece.
Yeah. Are you talking about gas lamps? Or?
Yeah, well, they
Alright.
had these little lamps, you know, on this.
They were electrical though, huh?
No, they weren't electrical, they were
Probably white gas. Or kerosene?
kerosene, I think. Just an ordinary, one of those small ones.
I see.
They had reflectors on the back there.
Oh, sure, yeah,
I think there was 3 or 4 of them on the wall.
yeah.
Then they did have one of these lanterns that they hung up above that lighted up quite a bit, I
Yeah.
know.
Pump them up.
Yeah.
Okay, gaslight. Yeah, a lot of tricks. Well, over the years, when you well, what special remembrance or memory or whatever would you like to tell the young folks, especially kids coming along who never heard of all that stuff you just said? What advice would you give them about living nowadays? Huh?
Well, then everything moved pretty slow.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like you had to get home and you had to do chores, you know, help with
Yeah.
chores, because I had an assignment, you know, I'd take care of the chickens,
Okay.
and that was my job, pick eggs and feed them oats and corn and water, and then to fill the wood box. That was my job, as long as I did that,
Yeah.
then I could go play.
Okay.
But
So.
then I'd have to go down there and help milk, see.
Oh yeah. Now, when you say go play, what would go play be? What would you do?
Well, we lived in the hills, so
Yeah.
in the wintertime I'd ski, even at night sometimes.
Really? You never
Yeah.
gotten in the way of some trees when you
No,
ski.
never hit any.
Well, what about the TV? You didn't have much time to watch TV, I suppose, in the 40s.
Well, we didn't have TV. We had, when I was real small, I can remember this radio that ran off the battery.
Yeah,
And of course, Dad would come in at noon and then you want to get to markets, you know, and you could
Sure.
barely hear it.
yeah.
And then when the war started, I remember he bought a radio for $11.98.
Yeah.
He thought that was pretty.
So who was your biggest radio hero then, all those radio stories? Ever listen to any radio stories?
Yeah, Jack Bunny and Fibber McGee and Molly and
Yeah.
Lone Ranger
Lone Ranger.
and Amos and Andy,
Ever listen to Tom Mix?
yeah, and Jack Benny and
Yeah.
all those. And of course there was Lux besides Hollywood.
Uh-huh. Yeah. The Fat Man.
Yeah. And then there was Gangbusters on Saturday night.
Yeah.
So that's what we. And then when I was real small was young. Let's Pretend on Saturday morning that my mother was with us in school.
Okay.
My sister and me.
Well, there weren't many soap operas. Miss Stella Dallas and her wife Laura, or her daughter Laurel, you know.
Yeah. Of course, Mother would listen to Ma Perkins.
Well, that's what it was. She.
And I can remember way back it was, what's her name? That's there. In the
What?
30s, the late 30s. The big gal,
Oh, Kate Smith.
Kate Smith.
Yes.
I can remember her singing God Bless America and all those.
Yeah, that's right. Early,
She was really respected.
early 40s.
She was coming through the Depression, you know. They were.
Yeah. Well, any of your relatives, family, are involved in any of the wars?
In the wars,
Yeah.
well, I had 3 of my cousins that were involved in the war.
I see.
That would be Paul Johnson and Karsten Gorder and then Luther Trone.
I see. You were a little too young for Second World War. Too old, yeah.
I was only about 7, 8 years old in World War II.
Yeah.
So. And then, of course, we had a hired man went into service.
Yeah.
He was killed in action. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, let's see, we got up into the, getting you growed up, and then when you got done, you continued farming on the same place, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I was there all my life till about 86, I think it was.
Well, how did you change things when they weren't using horses anymore?
Well, when the hired man went into service in 1942, my dad bought a tractor.
Oh, I see. What was it? What kind of tractor?
Case, SC Case.
Uh-huh.
Bought a tractor and a plow and a disc and a cultivator
I see.
for $1,500.
Yep.
And then my brother, he was in 8th grade, so he didn't go to school that 1 year. That was before they had laws that you had to go to 16.
I see.
He stayed home and helped the farming at 42.
Yeah. Well, you could do a lot of farming with one tractor, but then they didn't farm so much.
No, they didn't. It took forever to, you know,
How many acres did you have on the place that you were tillable?
I think it was 140 acres.
Oh, that's pretty good sized
Yeah, but it was
place.
awful hilly. And,
How many cows?
well, we were up to, we had around 50 head of cattle.
Milking?
No,
Oh,
at one time my dad milked quite a few in the 30s.
yeah.
He had maybe 16 cows milking that when he hired a man. And
Yeah.
it seemed like 8 cows, that's about one man could take care
Oh,
of.
man, yeah. If you milk by hand.
Yeah, because he says his arms just ached.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of
So
labor intensive stuff.
I suppose we had room for 22 cows. We had around 18, 19 all the time.
Yeah.
And then of course we had the short yearlings and the long yearlings,
Yeah.
the calves, sheep.
And when you say short and long, what are you talking about?
Well, the long yearling is over 2 years old,
Oh, I see, I see,
and you got the ones a year or so.
I see. Well, then you're getting into the end of the farming and you go over to the fleet supply, huh?
Yeah. I started working at Fleet Supply, I think it was in the summer of '86,
Yeah,
part-time. And then I helped farmers out there, Orville Pygam, I helped him too. I had 2 jobs.
yeah. Boy, that's enough.
Yeah, you think you can handle 2 jobs, but it's pretty tough.
Well, what experience have you had with the Lord in the last bunch of years?
With the Lord,
With the Lord, yeah. What have you learned about Him?
well, I thought I knew him pretty good when I was young, but I really didn't.
Yeah. Why do you say that? Because of confirmation, probably?
Yeah, you know, when you were young, you saw the, I'm sure that the young people today too do too, you know. And everybody wasn't perfect, you know.
Oh, yeah, right. We're all sinners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least we know that He's faithful, even though we are slipping here and there, and it's good to,
Well, my mother made me go to Sunday school, so
yeah.
so I went to Sunday school, and of course, you almost get started with ushering or something, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And then I was treasurer of the Luther League and vice president one time, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, of course, a new pastor come in and he get involved in the church council. And I was superintendent of the Sunday school for 13 years.
Really?
I was assistant there for 3, 4 years. And then I think I've taught every grade there is.
Yeah. What grade did you enjoy the most?
I think the 5th and the 6th graders.
Yeah. Why?
Well, I had a class that was really bright, and,
Yeah.
But, the only thing I couldn't get him to read out of the Bible.
Really?
And of course, we had assignments, you know, we were studying about Saul
Mhm.
and so I started making trivia questions, you know.
Mhm.
This is I write it on the card and I say, this is a three-pointer. The girls was 3 girls and 3 boys.
Oh,
And they kept score and everything.
okay.
Now this is good for 3 points.
Uh-huh.
Name the first 3 books of the Old Testament. This one girl said, I know Genesis, Exodus, and Lucifer.
Were they serious?
Yeah. That was Kara Oakley. You probably know her.
Oh boy, that's good. Yeah, okay. Oh man,
Yeah, you know, when you farm and raise sheep,
yeah,
you know, the Lord says we're like sheep, you know.
yeah,
And you see these little kids growing up, they're just like those little lambs,
yeah,
so shy, and
yeah.
pretty soon they get. I remember this one girl when I was superintendent, her mother would bring her in and she couldn't stand to see her mother go, you know, so her mother would stay there. And then I come around, I was helping the treasurer pick up the money cards,
Yeah.
and pretty soon the mother was sitting outside of the door listening.
Oh,
And then she said one time, well, I gotta go, and we gotta go and pick up my husband. I'll be back before Sunday school's over.
uh-huh.
And, she didn't make it before Sunday school was over, and her little girl was about 3 years, came out of there. Mama, worry!
Oh,
She
yeah.
started to cry, and
Oh, yeah.
Mrs. Bensey picked her up, and Mommy's coming. Well, now, you know, they're college now.
Sure, yeah, yeah. Growed up a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you know, this has been fun, and I appreciate having Ben take the time to do this, tell this story. And we're going to see that people down the way get a chance to share this, because there are things that you've heard today that are gone. Those are good days that...
I heard on the radio, like, people don't tell the stories of the yesteryear and everything.
Yeah.
It's just like, something about, it's just like a death when they don't tell them or reminisce those stories.
They're gone.
Yeah, gone forever.
Yeah. Yeah, they try to go back and, you know, find and remember.
Well, you know, at this historical, see, I searched for a lot of stuff, and boy, there's a lot of stuff down there.
At the Historical
You
Museum.
can just about take any, they got scrapbooks about anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's one thing, all it was the men and women that were drafted into the service, you know, they'd have a list of guys,
Sure.
all it was, see.
Yeah.
And some did a little different,
Some have pictures of them and
yeah, so but
you can see them.
articles cut out,
Well, it's a blessing,
yeah.
really, that they get that. And this is going to be a blessing for people too. This
You
the
think so?
story.
Well, I think Arnold looked up and interviewed me one time, I think there's something down there.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched the video from in here, down there? They got one at the Historical Society.
Do they?
Of our,
Huh?
I think it was 125th.
Okay.
We took videos of, we had Mrs. Furley play the old organ there, you know.
Oh, really? That's a good deal.
Oh, last couple of weeks ago, we had this fellow pastor, what is his name, Gloss? Have you seen that book, that black book over there? That's his, when he's written about his family.
Oh, really? The Immigrant's Treasure.
Yeah,
James.
I'm just
L.
starting
Gloss.
writing about that,
Yeah.
reading about it. And that was interesting,
Yeah.
some of the stuff he found. So,
Well, that was one of those things that's special.
too bad they couldn't make a movie of people coming from Norway.
Yeah.
I know the Swedes did it one time. can't remember the name of the film though, but showing them come
Yeah,
across and then,
kinda like they had on the boat and so on.
yeah,
Oh, man, some were born on the boat.
yeah.
Oh, gee. Well, I think I've taxed your attention and been hard on you here, keeping you going on this tape for so long. But I appreciate your willingness to make this. And we're gonna share it now and see how it looks. See, this can be hooked up right to the TV here and we'll see what
Oh,
happens.
I see. Probably explode.
Yeah.